try and give some practical suggestions, this idea that when you actively engage with something, or when you use your brain more in the learning, basically, it tends to be more effective. Now, the interesting about this is that we don't want the person cognitively or their brain involved during the competition. That's that Andy Murray, how am I holding the ball thing. We want people actively engaged in the learning process so that when they get to the competition, it's automatic. Now, the normal suggestion there, which I'll show you an example of, just this second Andy Murray example here, is that if it's not possible to implicitly learn something, if you have a particular skill that you want to pass on to a player or a tactical situation, and there's just no way to get them to learn it themselves because it's particularly complex, or you just think they wouldn't know the answer. So there's no way of doing it implicitly, and we have to just direct them. If we've got to the point where we have to direct this information, probably what we need to do with that is try and do it in a clever way that doesn't have loads of different steps and stages of learning. Because what you have to keep saying to yourself in your head is, what's going to happen when this is tested under pressure? So let me just show you another example of Andy Murray using here. Oh, sorry, I skipped off one sec. Can I go back to that?
So Andy, there's been a lot of instruction about how to hit a forehand, but what's important to you when you hit your forehand?
I mean, obviously it depends on which shot you're trying to hit, but like the drill we're going to do now is basically called kill the forehand, so you're obviously trying to hit the winner and end point with that one shot. And the most important thing for me is to use my legs and make sure my body weight's going into the court. So my body's kind of following the path of the ball.
Yeah, so you didn't catch that. You're basically summing that up, saying his body weight is basically following the path of the ball. Now, what that is, that's an example of what's called chunking, which is essentially where there's loads of little steps to hitting that shot perfectly, but he's summed that up in his head in one kind of phrase, which is, I'm going to follow the path of the ball. Now, I'm sure we've all used that before in that specific example, but it should be possible, if we're creative, to do that with lots of skills in the tennis court. And that's the creativity of coaching, really, or teaching anything. That can we take something that's complicated, like hitting a powerful first serve or defending against an attacking player, and even though there might be 4 or 5 things that we need the player to be able to do, is it possible to chunk that some way into a group of, or a phrase or something that would make sense to the player? And that's the issue with the cognitive demands. If we place too many demands on the player, giving like a list of things to remember, it's not going to work under pressure. Whereas if we try and chunk it into one kind of phrase or something that they're more likely to be able to rely on when the heat is on, we have a better chance that this will still work when it's tested.